time, there is a lobbying effort happening in America by PTI or Imran Khan supporters saying that US should stop the aid and the IMF program and help stopping the IMF program. Imran Khan's sister has claimed that they are going to go and file a lawsuit against Donald Lu, who conspired to throw out or topple Imran Khan's government.
I know that our local Pakistani American community that are PTI supporters have been lobbying and have been pushing these individuals. Ilhan even, went to Pakistan, meet Imran Khan before he was disposed. The lawsuit against Donald Lu, this kind of rhetoric against Donald Lu, this is just, more of the same. This is just nonsense. The facts of the matter are that, what happened, it wasn't derived by the United States government. This is something that happened in Pakistan internally.
Groups in Pakistan who operate, and you saw what happened to the Christian community, what happened to the Hindu community. And there are plenty of other issues which I think Pakistani diaspora can very well influence on, which is the education, which is up-leveling the health system.
What our community still needs to work on is perhaps how do we message ourselves? How do we come together collectively? We have some wonderful organizations. You mentioned UPNA, that has been, the backbone of the diaspora community for a number of decades now. There are many other diaspora foundations and organizations that are doing amazing work. But what we're missing at this point is a unified message, a unified strategy.
Greeting viewers, this is Misbah Azam at New Wave Global. Today, I have very distinguished guests with me. Faraz Darvesh is my colleague, my partner. He is going to help me in running this show. My two guests are, one is Dr. Ameena Zia. Our Neador viewers are, she's not a stranger for our Neador viewers. She's a professor of political economy. She's a founder of Blue Ridge Impact Consulting, with focusing on sustaining policy methods. She served as political appointee for the number of years and spearheaded justice and police policy that is now adopted in over 32 US cities. Currently, she is teaching at City University of New York and working on electoral and representational work on international and local level. Welcome, Dr. Zia. My other guest is Ms. Sumbul Aurangzeb. Sumbul is former head of District Project of United States Congressman Eddie Bernice Johnson, and she worked on various political campaigners at the national, state, and local level. She has done extensive organizations with immigrants, with Pakistani community, and the Muslim community in general. She is a fellow of American Muslim Civic Leadership Institute, studied political science, and her master's in public administration. Currently, she is focusing on nonprofit development of local politics. So we are going to discuss some local issues, some American politics issues. So Faraz, would you kindly start the first question to Sumbul?
Thank you, Misbah, and welcome Ameena and Sumbul to our show. The question that I wanted to begin with is, there has been a letter written to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken by the Congress representatives regarding the human rights abuses in Pakistan, and particularly against the Imran Khan's party. And what the premise of that, the argument of that letter is that because there are human rights abuses in Pakistan, therefore US should stop the aid and the IMF program, the support to Pakistan. Now, the question becomes, will it make any difference? That's question number one. Question number two, the Imran Khan's sister has claimed that they are going to go and file a lawsuit against Donald Lu, who conspired to throw out or topple Imran Khan's government in Pakistan. So there are two conflicting statements. One is PTI's argument in Pakistan is death to America. America is responsible for taking down our government. But at the same time, there is a lobbying effort happening in America by PTI or Imran Khan supporters saying that US should stop the aid and the IMF program and help stopping the IMF program support to Pakistan. Two separate, two conflicting, I guess, approaches that they are taking.
Yeah, unfortunately, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a heavy topic. We have a lot going on right now in the world, especially with what's happening in Palestine. But this is ongoing, as we can see. The letter that was signed and submitted, I saw a lot of familiar voices. We have Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. We have Greg Cesar, who's from Austin, a lot of progressives on there. And these are people that, I know that our local Pakistani American community that are PTI supporters have been lobbying and have been pushing these individuals. Ilhan even, went to Pakistan not too long ago to meet Imran Khan before he was disposed. So, I know that these efforts have continued. We've seen that, some of our local or national Pakistani American organizations have said that this is their primary focus is just to continue pushing our elected officials to say something, to do something about what they're calling human rights abuses in Pakistan. And, I want to say that it's good. I wish that the Pakistani American community would talk to our elected officials about so many different issues which matter. I wish that they would talk about human rights abuses which occur in Pakistan, not just Pakistan, everywhere. And we know that, unfortunately, human rights abuses have not started, just with Imran Khan not being prime minister or whatever has happened subsequently. There have been lots of issues over the years. And myself personally, I remember I brought up one of those issues with Asia. What was her name? The sister that was. Yes, I actually brought that up with one of these large national groups. That how come we don't say anything about her, or how come we don't talk to these senators or congressmen that we have connections with? And at that time, the representative for this Pakistani American group said that, oh no, we just focus on foreign policy. So it's very intentional, what we decide to do and what we don't decide to do. The lawsuit against Donald Loom, this kind of rhetoric against Donald Loom, this is just, more of the same. This is just nonsense, honestly speaking. The facts of the matter are that, what happened, it wasn't derived by the United States government. This is something that happened in Pakistan internally. And, but I'm not surprised that you're going to see multiple narratives, because that's often what you have to do to try and get something accomplished. You're going to come in from different ways, different perspectives, different groups to try and get what it is that you want to get done. Yeah. But I would just say that, I think it's a horrible idea for Pakistani Americans to push for the end of aid to Pakistan. Pakistanis, we know that there's lots of people who really need that aid. So I hope that everyone kind of keeps their, focuses on the bigger picture. The bigger picture is not just Imran Khan, it's, millions and millions of people.
Right. Yeah. And let me pose that question to Ameena. Ameena, there, as Sumbul rightly so mentioned, there has been human rights abuses against the minorities, not by the state by itself, but there are, groups in Pakistan who operate, and you saw what happened to the Christian community, what happened to the Hindu community. And there are plenty of other issues which I think Pakistani diaspora can very well influence on, which is the education, which is up-leveling the health system, which I guess one thing that I think the Apna does very well is, supporting the healthcare system in Pakistan. But I think they've done some substantial work in their capacity. So shouldn't Pakistani Americans, unite? And also, we talk about democracy, we talk about minority rights in US, well, because we are a minority here as a Muslim and also as a Pakistani, but we should also worry about the minorities and what happens to them back in Pakistan.
Yes, Faraz, thank you so much for asking that. And assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for having me on the show, Ms. Misbah. It's always a pleasure. And Sumbul, you as well. You mentioned the diaspora, the Pakistani diaspora, and I would like to take the moment to just contextualize what the American Pakistani or Pakistani American diaspora is. So we are a fairly young community. We started, the Pakistani Americans started migrating in the, maybe some in the 60s, 70s, mostly in the 90s and then 2000s. The community itself is still learning how to participate within the democratic system in America. And Sumbul and I have worked for a number of years around electoral politics and democracy and political participation within our diaspora communities. And what we have noticed is that we are at a very good place right now. Our community is finally understanding how to play the game. Our community, and we mentioned that letter earlier to President Biden from Congress, our community has understood how to leverage your voice and your power in the halls of Congress. And that is a very positive thing. But what our community lacks, or let me rephrase that, what our community still needs to work on is perhaps how do we message ourselves? How do we come together collectively? We have some wonderful organizations. You mentioned UPNA, that has been, the backbone of the diaspora community for a number of decades now. There are many other diaspora foundations and organizations that are doing amazing work. But what we're missing at this point is a unified message, a unified strategy, where the leadership of these organizations, diaspora organizations, need to come together and figure out what are our priorities, what's our vision for ourselves here, and then also what is our vision externally with our connection and our identity to Pakistan, right? And once we figure that out, then all the pieces are just going to lay themselves out. You mentioned the human rights abuses. Absolutely, there are human rights abuses going on around the world. Unfortunately, those in our communities who are most affected are the most vulnerable, minorities, women, and children. And so if there is a time to bring up the voice of the unvoiced, I absolutely think that we need to do that at every juncture, whether it's within our local communities, whether it's with nonprofits, whether it's with larger organizations, or even with congressional leaders. But there's a mechanism, there's a way, there's a method to do it, right? So we locally, and then regionally, federally, nationally, and then internationally. So we need to work within, I feel like the diaspora community still is working on how do we navigate. So we have these emotions and we have these feelings, and all of these things are coming from a very good place in our hearts. But where do we park these feelings and these concerns? That's where we need to focus on human rights concerns, human rights abuses. There are organizations that are working specifically around that. That's where we need to park our concerns. That's where we need to collectively come together, rally around with other organizations, with other communities, so that we can have a stronger voice.
Yeah, and one question that I would like to raise, sorry, maybe off the topic. We are seeing some, we've seen some attacks, what happened in Chicago to a kid against Muslims. We are witnessing those. So our community itself is very vulnerable here. I think how does our community project itself and also sends the message across? Because there has been, since this Palestine and Israel issue, there has been a lot of hate crime that have popped up, actually significantly increasing against Muslims. And I don't know how can we, maybe Sumbul, you can help me. Is there a way where we can actually better project ourselves and present our case?
Well, so, in light of what happened, what's going on in Palestine and Israel, so whenever there's a large international conflict, we end up feeling it here at home, right?
Yeah.
And the way that Islamophobia works is that, even if you're not Muslim, you're just South Asian, you're Desi, you're Sikh, you're an Arab Christian, you're, whatever you are, but somebody looks at you and thinks you're Muslim, you can be a victim of this type of harassment or eventually assault, God forbid. So I think our organizations on the ground have been doing a lot of work, especially post 9/11. We have a lot of nonprofits, a lot of people who have been organizing with our local officials and then our state officials and then our national officials, building those relationships. And we did a lot of work to try and, protect ourselves from something happening in the future. So now it seems like that something is happening right now.
Okay.
And, you know, what we have to do is we have to rely on our, you know, I think also kind of our local leaders. Like, what can we do? So, you know, I know that here in my city, my own city, what can I do? Because we have a very large Pakistani population, large Muslim community, large Asian community in general. And since we're in Texas, you know, what is it that I can do? I thought this within the first week because we knew that I just assumed that we were going to have some pushback. Kids in school are going to be called terrorists. They're going to get harassed. They're going to get bullied. What can we do? So, you know, because I've been developing relationships with local elected officials like the city council, the police, etc. So I reached out and asked, you know, are we able to develop a town hall for where the police can come and talk to our community and just reassure them, let them know, you know, what is a hate crime? What is your response? What to do? So I think it's important for us to keep, you know, sometimes we'll have people from our community, Pakistani community, they'll just think about, again, these international issues, like about, you know, who's the prime minister of Pakistan or, you know, whatnot. But we live here, so we need to make sure that, you know, we focus on strengthening our relationships here. And it doesn't have to be a big organization. It doesn't just have to be Apna ya PAC or AP PAC or anything. It can be just us as individuals. You know, we just make sure that we get to know our city council people. We get to know our superintendents at our schools, etc.
Right. Let me take that question, and I think I'm gonna go towards a wrap up. Ameena, do you think our community, Pakistani American or Muslim American community, we are as socially and politically active as we should be?
No, I don't think we are. I think we have an immense capacity to be more active, more engaged, more integrated. And I use the term integrated because integrated is a two-way street. It doesn't mean that you lose your own identity and you adopt a new one. It's a two-way street, right? Where you bring your identity and then you let those who are not of your ethnicity or identity understand your identity. And I think that I think we're in a good place, but can we do more? Absolutely. I think right now, especially in schools, we have some very important issues going on right now. We have in the education space, we are talking about banning books that our children in elementary, middle, and high school get to read. We are talking about a lot of things that have very real impact on our day-to-day lives and on the lives of our children here. And I wish that our communities, our diaspora organizations would start focusing on that. One issue I want to bring up is each and every household, diaspora household, is or will face challenges of aging parents, having elderly around, right? And it's not just our community, it's across the board. Just because the society here, the system is not set up to take care of elderly in a way that culturally we would like to, right? So that's a huge issue. Those are issues that we need to work with our local representatives, our local leaders, our community leaders to try to understand. We are taxpayers. We give into the system. We work within the system. How can we demand and carve a space where our needs, the needs of our communities, are met? Those are some issues that I really wish our organizations would start focusing on. And I know Sumbul agrees with me on this as well, because we have gone back and forth on this. Foreign affairs and foreign relations, that's amazing. It's great. But guess what? The Pakistan and United States relationship is a military relationship. It is not a people-to-people relationship.
And it may not change very quickly.
And it is not going to change anytime soon because it hasn't. And the only way that we as diaspora or individuals can help Pakistan is by developing better education exchange, better investment opportunities, better trade opportunities. That's where we can come in and really make an impact. Speaking about prime ministers or political parties or what's going on in electoral politics, there is not helping Pakistan. And is certainly not helping us here. It's a lot of wasted resources, time, and space. So to your question, can we do more? Absolutely. And another thing I think that our organizations within the diaspora need to do is bring in new leadership. We have community leaders who were raised here, who are working here, who understand the system, who were raised in the system. give them the microphone. Please step aside. I think Sumbul used those words yesterday on text message to me.
No, thank you so much, Ameena and Sumbul. So, Misbah Saab, I don't have any further question, but if you have some, please proceed.
So I will. I don't have any specific questions, but the thing is that before we conclude, I would like to get both of your comment regarding the upcoming U.S. elections. And recently, I had a chat with one of the ex-President Obama campaign advisor, and he is saying that the way things are going, it seems that President Trump will be coming back, and President Obama is losing, President Biden is losing heavily. So, Sumbul, I'd like to start with you, and I would want to get the comment from Dr. Zia, and then we will conclude the show.
Yeah, unfortunately, and it pains me to say this as somebody who's been a lifelong Democrat. And I was an organizer nationally for Muslim women for Biden in 2020, and really pushed people to vote for Biden against Trump. And not specifically because I thought Biden was the most amazing candidate, but just because I thought Trump was such a horrible president, and he was dangerous basically for our futures. But yeah, it's become pretty obvious. President Biden, unfortunately, I think he wasn't doing particularly well with people. But then after this conflict in Israel and Palestine, it has just become intolerable for a lot of people. And I'm a part of a lot.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sumbul.
Yeah.
Any U.S. president would be there, wouldn't he be doing, or she be doing the same?
Or Trump will do worse than him if he were to come. If he was the president.
I think those are all fair assessments. I think the difference, what's happening now, is that we've seen flare-ups between Israel and Palestine many times over our lifetimes, right? But this time, because of social media, we're watching daily, every single day, we're watching videos of, dead children, what's happening every single day. And young people, Gen Z, they're watching every day. They're glued to TikTok. So the fact is that, yeah, maybe Trump would do the same thing. Maybe somebody else would have done the same thing. But who is doing it? It's President Biden. And he's doing it now. And he's doing it in front of our faces. So, younger people don't have that context. Even I myself, I have that context. But I can't bring myself to support a person who's acting so just cruel, and who looks like he's dug his heels in whenever people are asking him about a ceasefire or whatnot. I can't bring myself to do it. And unfortunately, I think that, data poll after poll after poll is showing that the majority of the Muslim and the Arab community is the same. He's lost popularity even in the Black community. He's trailing in the states that he needs in Michigan. So I think, it's a horrible situation. It's a really bad situation. I'm afraid of what's going to happen in the future, but I don't think that President Biden is going to see a second term.
It's like trying to get out of the current trouble. You may end up in a bigger trouble.
Yes, right. True. That's true.
Dr. Zia, same question to you.
Yeah, I agree with Sumbul's assessment. I also want to point out that, the diaspora community, the Muslim community, even before this present conflict in the Middle East, had started supporting the Republican candidates because of a slew of other issues, right? So for the diaspora community or for the Muslim community, I don't think it would be a fair assessment to say that they would switch their political parties just based on one issue. I think this has been coming for a while now. If you look at the realities on the ground, state to state, especially in rural America, it's pretty bad. Our education system is completely broken. The younger adults are not able to purchase homes, right? Interest rates are crazy again. It's just, there are so many real issues that people are tackling on a day-to-day basis. Healthcare, access to healthcare, who is making decisions about our healthcare, right? So all of these things are going on as well. And I think it would be fair to say that people will, regardless of diaspora community or Muslim community or not, people are going to really this time around pick a candidate and pick a political party that resonates with their needs and challenges. And I think that is because we have been in this space, in this difficult space, you know, coming post-COVID, coming out of COVID, it's just been a challenge. And so I think this is a really wonderful time for the diaspora communities and organizations to come together collectively and form sort of a collective advocacy avenue for people to get behind, so that once we do make our choices, that we can make those choices with a little bit more of an impact, have a voice behind it, and have a strategic mission or a vision, you know, so we're not just out there doing our own things, just like, you know, our diaspora organizations right now, some are focusing on one issue, some are focusing on another. And quite honestly, it, you know, to members of Congress, because I deal with members of Congress, you know, I get phone calls saying, wait, what is this? What is the main issue? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Because we are all over the place. And if we are all over the place as a community, we're not going to be able to get anything pushed through. It's pretty much like crying wolf now at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard our guests, and coming days we will be requesting them to keep joining us. We will be talking a lot of issues related with US politics, the diaspora, and the world events, whatever is happening around us. And Faraz, thank you very much for your time also, and asking very nice questions. So next time we will be with some of these guests and other guests, and Misbah and Faraz.
And thank you, Dr. Zia, and thank you, Sumbul.